Hello everyone. In today's class, I would like to say you regarding the research designs. So many of you are having so much doubts regarding this research designs. Actually, these are very simple. I'll try to simplify as much as possible. So please try to listen the entire class. Coming to the topic, if you see mainly the research designs, these are classified into two types. We have quantitative research design and we have qualitative research design. So coming to the qualitative research design, we have only five types in qualitative research design. So these five types of qualitative research designs are: first one is phenomenological, and the second one is ethnographic. In phenomenology, we'll see the aspect of the clients, the participants who are participating in the research studies. We'll try to take their views on the given topic. So that is phenomenological. Ethnographic means we are studying the culture of the population. Either it can be narrow study or it can be broad study. And coming to the grounded theory, we'll see what was the history based on what they have constructed the theory. And historical, we'll see what had happened in the past. And coming to the case study, when a problem is unable to solve, when they are not able to solve a particular problem, when they are encountering a lot of problems in solving it, we'll go for this case study type of research design. So these are qualitative research design. So I'll explain you what is qualitative research design in the next class, and in today's class we'll discuss mainly regarding the quantitative research design. So what is this quantitative research design? Means in quantitative research design it is classified into two types. So we have experimental and also we have non-experimental. So in today's class I would like to say what is experimental research design. So in experimental research design, we have classified the experimental research design into three types. First one is true experimental research design, and second one is quasi experimental research design, and third one is pre-experimental research design. So how many types we have? We have two types of research designs. Mainly, we have first one is quantitative and the second one is qualitative. So in quantitative, again, we have two types of research designs. We have experimental and we have non-experimental. And in experimental research design, the name itself is saying that we are going to experiment. We are going to do something and we want to obtain the result from the particular research design. So we have true experimental research design, we have quasi experimental design, and we have pre-experimental research design. So in true experimental research design, again we have three types of research designs. So first one is pre-test post-test control group, and the second one is post-test only control group, and third one is Solomon 4 group design, and fourth one is we have factorial design, fifth one is randomized block design, and sixth one is crossover design. So without wasting time, we'll get into the topic. I think you are clear with the classification. And in non-experimental, we have descriptive, correlational, development research design, epidemiological, and survey research. Again, in descriptive, we have univariate descriptive design, exploratory descriptive design, comparative descriptive design. In correlational, we have prospective and retrospective. In developmental, we have again cross-sectional design and we have longitudinal design. And in epidemiological studies, we have like case control studies and we have cohort studies. And coming to the survey design, we have descriptive, explanatory, comparative, and correlational studies. So coming to the exam point of view, whenever you want to write an exam, mostly they will ask you regarding the quasi experimental research design, or they might ask you regarding the true experimental research design, and most probably they will go for qualitative research design. And this non experimental research design, these are rarely asked, but you need to know if they ask, you should be able to write those questions also. So we'll discuss the experimental research design completely. So coming to the experimental research design, these experimental designs, these are one of the most sophisticated research methods, and these were done under the control conditions. So these experimental research designs, they are mainly focusing on the effect of independent variable on the dependent variable. So we have two types of variables in every research. We have independent variable and we have dependent variable. So the independent variable is something that you can manipulate. and dependent variable is something that you cannot manipulate, just you have to observe. So what we'll see here means we'll see the effect of independent variable on the dependent variable. For example, to simplify this, I would like to give you an example. Suppose you have a patient who is having fever. You have a patient who is having fever. Here the fever, it is the dependent variable. And if you see here, the treatment which you are giving, the treatment which you are giving is independent variable. So here the dependent variable is fever and the independent variable is treatment. So treatment is something which you can manipulate. So you want to change the treatment time by time. For suppose if you have decided to give example paracetamol to the fever patient, so here the independent variable is this treatment. So this paracetamol you can give it as OD dose, you can give it as stat dose, or you can give it as BD dose, or you can give it as TID dose. And also if the fever is not subsiding, the thing you can do is you can add some antibiotic to it based on the investigations that you have done. So here the independent variable is nothing but the treatment variable. So the treatment is something which you can manipulate. So that's what here the sentence is saying. So the where the independent variable is manipulated to treatment or interventions, and the effect of those interventions is observed on the dependent variable. So it is very simple. We are observing the independent variable effect on the dependent variable whenever you are changing the treatment. So the treatment part, what is the effect of treatment on the fever? So here the fever is dependent variable and the independent variable is the treatment. So we are able to manipulate the treatment. We can change the treatment accordingly. So we'll see the effect of treatment on the patient to subside that fever. So here the fever is becoming the dependent variable and the independent variable is becoming the treatment. Hope you are fine with this explanation. What is dependent variable and what is independent variable? So if you have queries, you can just drop them in the comment box, or you can contact me through WhatsApp. What I will do is I will explain you personally if you need it. So we'll see, as we are discussing in experimental research design, we have first one true experimental, we have quasi, and we have pre-experimental. So first we'll discuss what are the true experimental research designs. Coming to the true experimental research designs, these are those who here in this true experimental research design, the researcher, he is having control over the variables that he is taking. So mainly he can control the variables. He can predict confidently what kind of effect can be observed on the dependent variable. Why? Because here this person is able to manipulate. Here the true experimental studies are having the characteristics. They are having the characteristics of manipulation, control, and randomization. So what is manipulation? Here the researcher can manipulate the independent variable. So what is the independent variable? As we have discussed, the treatment part is the independent variable. And what is the dependent variable? The dependent variable is the fever, means the disease. So here, as you can manipulate the treatment, the true experimental designs are having the characteristics of manipulation. And what is the control? So here we are able to control, means in every research design, especially coming to this true experimental research designs, we have two types of groups in our design. We have one experimental group and we have one control group. So control group is something that we do not experiment on them. We do not give any kind of treatment interventions. What we'll do is we'll take the sample and we'll keep the sample aside. So, and next one is randomization. Randomization means nothing but here in randomization, if you know what is data collection, in data collection we have a term called as randomization. Randomization is nothing but everybody are having the equal opportunity. Everybody are having the equal chance. What we'll do, we'll take names of X, Y, Z. For example, we have 10 numbers in the class. So we want to select these 10 numbers in the research study. So you have two types of group. We have experimental group and we have control group. So you want to place these 10 members in the experimental group as well as control group. So what we'll do, you have to take 5. So through randomization part, what we'll do, we'll write all the names of these XYZ persons, and what we'll do, we'll take the chitti. So we'll do a lottery method. Through lottery method, we'll separate 5 names at one side and 5 names on the other side. So here the 5 names will go to the experimental group and the 5 names will go to the control group. So this was the control. Means what we will do, we do not give any kind of intervention. We'll keep the control group aside and we'll observe what is the effect of the treatment on the treatment group, nothing but experimental group. So hope you are fine with this explanation. So these are the essential characteristics of what? True experimental research designs. So what is this manipulation? As we are discussing here, we are manipulating the treatment. So we are manipulating the independent variable and we are observing the desired effect on the dependent variable. So that is manipulation. You can just take down the notes and you can write. So manipulation refers to the conscious control of independent variable. Here we are controlling the independent variable with the consciousness. We have total control because if you want to change the treatment, it is in your hands. If you want to change the medication, it is in your hands. If you want to give BD dose or OD dose or TID dose, it is in your hands. Means that treatment variable, which is independent, you can manipulate under control conditions. So here, manipulation means nothing but we are manipulating. We are changing the treatment part as we like. So here, for example, they have given. So they want to study the effect of the efficiency of chlorhexidine mouthwash mainly to prevent the ventilator associated pneumonia, those who are admitted in the ICU. So this is a common problem for the patients who got admitted in the ICU. So they will be having ventilator associated pneumonia. So they want to study the desired effect of this chlorhexidine mouthwash. So if you see the example here, in this example we are taking the chlorhexidine mouthwash. This chlorhexidine mouthwash is the treatment. This chlorhexidine mouthwash is the treatment. We want to know the effect of the independent variable on the dependent variable. So here the dependent variable is the ventilator associated pneumonia. So what we will do? So we will manipulate. So here it is not dependable. This is independent variable. So the treatment part is independent variable. So it is manipulated by the researcher. So this one, it is only given to the experimental group. So as I am saying, the control group, we don't give any kind of interventions or any kind of treatment. You can understand regarding this control group in the coming slide. So it will be very easy. Don't get confused. We have experimental group and we have control group. For experimental group, the name itself is saying that we are giving some kind of experiment. We are giving some kind of treatment. And for a control group, we don't give any kind of treatment. We are depriving it. We are keeping it aside of treatment. Just we want to know what is the effect of the treatment on the experimental group. So, for example, you have two groups. We have group A and group B. So, these two groups are having the same problem. For example, consider that they are having pain. So this group A is experimental group and this group B is control group. For group A, what you have given is you have given the treatment, and for group B, we don't give any kind of treatment. So we want to see the effect of treatment on the persons who received and the effect of the persons who did not receive any kind of treatment. Then only you can know what is the exact value of the treatment which you have given. So the control group is something that we keep it for comparison. What we'll do, we'll keep it for comparison. We don't give them any kind of treatment, but in experimental group, what we'll do, we'll give treatment and we'll see the effect of treatment on the experimental group, and we'll see the effect of treatment, what is the non-effect of treatment on the control group. Here, whenever you are not giving any kind of interventions or any kind of treatment, the person's pain will remain same. So it will be constant, and the persons who got received or who received the treatment, their pain will be somewhat different from the control group. So you can have a clear cut idea what is the difference between the persons who received the treatment and what is the difference between the person who did not receive the treatment. That is what we take experimental group and we take control group. Hope you are clarified with the example. So as I am discussing control group, they don't receive any kind of treatment. Randomization, this is something what we'll do, we'll keep every person in the group is having equal opportunity. We do not do any kind of bias. To avoid the systemic bias, you are going for the randomization. What we'll do, we'll go for lottery method, or sometimes we'll go for table method, or sometimes we'll go for computer assisted method. So this is randomization. So everybody are having equal opportunity. We'll write all their names in one paper and we'll keep them in a bowl. will do the lottery method. Here the researcher will get a blindfold and he will go there and he will pick the cheat, and here they will decide to which group they can go. And also we'll have another method which is called as coin flip method. What they will do, they will flip the coin like toss, which we'll do in the cricket field, and based on the person's choice of to either heads or tails, they will go for the experimental group and control group respectively. So this is randomization. So you can see here we have flip coin method, and also we have lottery method, and here in we have the number method. So what they will do, they will use computers or they will use numbers. Coming to the types of true experimental research design, we have mainly 6 types of true experimental research design. We have post-test only, we have pre-test post-test design, we have Solomon 4 group design, we have factorial design, we have randomized block, and we have crossover. So we'll see what is this post-test design. So this post-test control design, so this one is an experimental research design. So this was there in the true experimental research design. So if you have seen the classification in the earlier class, you can know what is this post-test control design. So what is this post-test control design? This is the quantitative research design. In quantitative research design, we have experimental research design, and in this experimental research design, we have true experimental research design. In this true experimental research design, the first one which we are discussing is post-test control design. So it is belong to experimental research design, in which it is belonging to true experimental research design. So we'll see what is this post-test only control design. So the name itself is saying that we are doing only post-test here, and we are having the control group. So if you see the picture here, what we are assigning, we have 2 types of groups. We have experimental group and we have control group. In experimental group, we are assigning the members, we are assigning the samples in random assignments, as we have discussed in the earlier slide. So we are discussing them in the random assignment through lottery method or through flip coin method or through blindfold method or through table method. We are keeping the patients here. We are taking the 5 samples in the experimental group. Example, I am saying 5. You can take number of samples as the study is based on, and we are taking some samples in the control group. The samples in the experimental group and the samples in the control group are equal in number. We are not changing the number. They are always equal. The only thing that we are doing is we are not giving any kind of treatment to the control group. The control group remains same at the point A and the control group remains same at the point B. And for the experimental group, what we are doing, we are giving the treatment in between point A and point B. So mainly we are in experimental group, what we are doing, we are giving the treatment. So this one, it is the independent variable, and we are giving the treatment. And what we are doing, we are doing the post test. What we are doing, we are doing the post test, and we are doing the post test, and we are seeing the research design result. So what is the result here? We have in post test only design. What we are doing, we are doing only post test without doing any kind of pre test. Directly we are giving them the treatment to the experimental group, and we are conducting the post test. In control group, without doing any kind of pre test, without giving any kind of treatment, what we are checking, we are checking the post test design. So you can see, if you see here, this post-test design, it compares of 2 types of randomly assigned groups. We have experimental group and we have control group. So they do not receive any kind of pre-test before the treatment is being implemented. And if you see here, in addition, here the treatment is only given to the experimental group, and the control group does not receive any kind of intervention. So in addition, that while the treatment is implemented on the control group, only post-test observation is carried out in both groups to assess the effect of the manipulation. To know the effect of the treatment which we are giving, we'll do post-test on the both groups, both on the experimental as well as on the control group. Here, this design is helpful in the situations where you cannot do the pre-test, where you cannot do the pre-test to the subject. So what we'll do, we'll directly go for the treatment part, and we'll do the post-test for the both experimental group and control group. So example for this post-test control design only. So what is the example? You want to know the effect of the urinary incontinence on the adults. So here in adults you cannot do pre-test regarding the urinary incontinence. It is something when the problem is coming to you, the patient is coming here. So what we can do here, you cannot do the pre-test. You can go for the diagnosis part, with for this urinary incontinence, and you can go for only the treatment, and then you can have to test whether the treatment is effective or not. So you cannot do pre-test. So in such cases where the person is having any kind of disease, before the disease occurring, you cannot go to the person's home and you cannot do the test. So pre-test is impossible there. So what you can do, just you can give the treatment and you can observe the desired effect of the treatment, that is post-test. So we have this post-test only control design. And the second design that we're going to discuss is pre-test post-test only design. So this one is same like post-test design. The only thing that we are adding is pre-test. So before you give any kind of treatment, both the groups, experimental group as well as the control group, both the treatment, they are getting the pre-test done. And later what we'll do, we are giving the treatment only on the experimental group. And after treatment observation, what we'll do, whenever we are giving the treatment, again we'll go for the post test and we'll see the research result. So this is pre-test and post-test only design. So what we are doing, we are doing the pre-test and we are giving the treatment for the experimental group, and we are not giving any kind of interventions to the control group. Again we are conducting both groups, we are conducting the post-test and we are observing the manipulated treatment part. So we have done the treatment, we know what had happened in the past, so what type of treatment is given we know, and what is the result also you can predict confidently, because you are manipulating under controlled conditions. Example for this pre-test post-test research design, for example, here you have bunch of patients who are having the cancer. So what you have done, you have given them the cognitive behavioral therapy. So at what extent they are adjusting to the particular interventions that we are giving for the patient. So we have already given them what will be happening. So we'll see what is their effectiveness, what is the effectiveness of the cognitive therapy that you have given earlier to the patients who are having this breast cancer whenever they are undergoing the interventions. So that is what pre-test and post-test only control design. So you can see here we have two types of group. What we have experimental group and we have control group. In experimental group, what we have done the random assignment, as well as for the control group also we have done the random assignments, and the number of samples in the experimental group and control group are always in the same, and we are conducting the pre-test for both control group as well as experimental group, and we are giving only treatment to the experimental group and we are not giving any kind of treatment to the control group, and we are conducting the test for both the groups, and we know what is the desired effect. We can compare the persons who did not receive the treatment, the persons who did not get any manipulation of treatment, and also you can see the persons who received the treatment, manipulation of treatment, and what are all the results you can compare. So this was the post test pre-test only controlled design. Hope you are fine with this. The other type of design that we're going to discuss is Solomon 4 group design. So if you have brief idea regarding the post-test control design and pre-test post-test control design, you can easily write what is the Solomon 4 group design. So in this Solomon 4 group design, we have two experimental groups and we have two control groups. So experimental group 1 and experimental group 2, control group 1 and control group 2. So what we'll do, we'll randomly assign the subjects to the four groups. The same method will be followed as we are following previously. So out of these four groups, we'll take experimental group 1 and control group 1 as one group, and experimental group 2 and control group 2 as other group. So what we will do, if you see here, if you see the slide, so we have four groups, as I am saying. We have experimental group, we have control group, we have experimental group 2 and we have control group 2. So for experimental group 1, for group 1 of experimental group and control group, what we'll do pre-test for the both control group 1 and experimental group 1, and we'll give own treatment to the only experimental group and we'll conduct the post-test. And for the second group, where there is experimental group 2 and control group 2, here we are not doing any kind of pre-test. The only thing that we are doing is we are completely going for the treatment and we are observing the post-test effect. So we have two types of designs that we have discussed earlier. We have post-test design and we have pre-test and post-test only design. So if you combine these both designs, we get this Solomon 4 group design. So this is very simple. Based on this example, I think you can write. So as I'm saying, so as we say, we have kept the four groups here. So the finally all four groups of the Solomon 4 group design, they will get the post test. Whereas the pre-test is only done to the groups which are there in the group 1, means we are doing the pre-test and post-test for the one group, and we are doing only the post-test for the one group, and the treatment part is done for the all two groups which are having these experimental groups. So that is what the Solomon 4 group design. Now we'll see what is the factorial design. So here the factorial design, here he is manipulating two or more variables, and they are saying the two or more independent variables, and say they are observing the desired effect on the dependent variable. So here in this design, this is useful, very useful to test more than two independent variables. These are called as factors. So what we'll do, we will test the independent variable, we'll test the factors. So for example, if you take this factorial group design, in this factorial group design, so we have two different types of protocols that were followed in the ICUs, mainly to prevent this ventilator associated pneumonia. So they are giving the two different types of medication. They are giving the chlorhexidine, and also they are going for the saline mouthwash. So here they want to identify at what intervals, at what frequencies, if you give the treatment, the desired effect the patient is having, mainly the patient is in safe hands of this ventilator associated pneumonia. So what we are doing, so this design, it is mainly facilitating the testing of several hypotheses at a single time. So we are testing different types of independent variables. We are testing the effect of different types of independent variable on the dependent variable. So here the typical factorial design, it will have the 2 into 3, 2 into 2 factorials. So it any combination, it can be done in any combination. So here the first group will be denoted by alpha, and the second number will be denoted by the beta. So you can see here, so in order to understand this factorial group design, what we have taken, the example of ventilator associated pneumonia. So here the patients who are there in the ICU, they will get this ventilator associated pneumonia. So to prevent this ventilator associated pneumonia, they are following the two protocols of mouth care. So they are using two types of drugs. First one is saline mouthwash, and the second one is chlorhexidine. So here what they have done, they have kept group 1 as chlorhexidine and group 2 as saline mouthwash. So here what we are testing, we are testing the two factors. And we want to know what is the effect of these factors. So here in alpha 1, they are keeping the chlorhexidine. In alpha 2, they are keeping the saline mouthwash, and the frequency that the medicine is going to the patient, they are denoting it with beta. So here we have like two types of groups. We have group A and group B. In order to simplify this, I am keeping you group A and group B. So in group A, again we have three types of subgroups, means the patients who are receiving the chlorhexidine mouthwash 4th hourly, the patients who are receiving this chlorhexidine mouthwash 6th hourly, and the patients who are receiving the chlorhexidine mouthwash 8th hourly. And again in group B, that means the patients who are receiving the saline mouthwash, here also we are having three types of subgroups. The patients who are receiving saline mouthwash 4th hourly, the patients who are receiving saline mouthwash 6th hourly, and the patients who are receiving the saline mouthwash 8th hourly. So we want to know what is the effect of this medicine on the patients. So what we'll do, first we'll compare the patients who are receiving the saline mouthwash and the patients who are receiving the chlorhexidine mouthwash 8th hourly. We'll see whether the medicine is working or not, whether these patients are in the safe hands of this ventilator associated pneumonia or not. So here unfortunately, if these patients are getting the pneumonia, that means if you are giving this chlorhexidine mouthwash 8th hourly, the medicine is not effective. On the other hand, if you give this saline mouthwash 8th hourly, it is not effective. And coming to the other group, we have the patients who are receiving the 6th hourly treatment. We have the patient receiving 6th hourly treatment with chlorhexidine. We have the patients receiving 6th hourly treatment with the saline mouthwash. We'll see the effect of the treatment. So here the patients who are receiving the treatment 6th hourly, so these patients are in the safe hands. So they did not got any kind of ventilator associated pneumonia. And the patients who were receiving the saline mouthwash 6th hourly, unfortunately these patients got the pneumonia. That means if you give the treatment saline mouthwash treatment 6th hourly, it is not effective. Whereas the chlorhexidine mouthwash, if you give 6th hourly, it is effective. And 4th hourly, if you check here, and again we'll compare the 4th hourly receiving groups. We'll see what happened with the 4th hourly receiving groups. Fortunately here, the chlorhexidine mouthwash patients who received the protocol, they are in safe hands, and even the saline mouthwash also are in the safe hands. So the thing what we can observe is both chlorhexidine and saline, these are both effective medicines to prevent the ventilator associated pneumonia. The thing is, the chlorhexidine mouthwash, if you give 6th hourly day, it is enough to prevent this ventilator associated pneumonia. Whereas if you want to go for the saline mouthwash, you have to go with 8th hourly a day, then only you can prevent this ventilator associated pneumonia. That is the factorial group design. What we are checking, we are checking the number of more than two number of independent variables. So here two number of independent variables are chlorhexidine and saline mouthwash. So here we want to see the effect. We are manipulating them. 4th hourly we are giving, 6th hourly we are giving, 8th hourly we are giving. So for that we have taken two types of groups. We have taken chlorhexidine group and we have taken the saline mouthwash group. So in saline mouthwash group, again we have the patients who receive 4th hourly, the patients who receive 6th hourly, the patients who receive 8th hourly. On the other hand, same we have the patients who are receiving chlorhexidine 4th hourly, 6th hourly and 8th hourly, and we'll compare the patients. 8th hourly patients will compare the patients who are receiving 6th hourly. What we are doing, we are comparing the patients in the 8th hourly, 6th hourly, 4th hourly, as well as we are comparing the patients with the chlorhexidine and saline mouthwash. So this is the factorial group design. It is very simple. Try to understand. If you have any doubts, you can drop them in the comment box. I'll explain. The other type of design that is there in the true experimental research design is the randomized block design. So what is this randomized block design? I'll explain you. So here, whenever you want to compare large number of groups, what you will do, you will bring the groups into homogeneity. So after they bringing the groups into homogeneity, what we will do, we will arrange them in blocks. If you see the picture, you can understand here. So this was the picture for the randomized group design. So what you have done is, you want to test the effect of the antihypertensive drugs. You want to test the effect of antihypertensive drugs. So here the patients, we have different types of patients. All the patients who are hypertensive are not the same type of hypertension they are having. Some patients may have primary hypertension, some patients may have hypertension which is associated with the diabetes, and some patients may have diabetes which is associated with the renal problem. So you want to study the desired effect of drugs. Here. So what type of drugs you have? So what type of drugs you have here? We have three types of drugs. We have type A, we have type B, and we have type C. So as I am saying, we have different types of hypertensive patients. All these patients are combined together, they are called as hypertensive patients. So we are separating them homogeneously. So if you see the name here, what we are doing, where there are large number of experimental comparison groups, the randomized block design is used to bring homogeneity among the selected different groups. So this is the simple method to reduce the variability among treatment groups by a more homogeneous combination of subjects through randomized block design. Means we have taken group of hypertensive patients, we have separated them based on their desired condition. So we have primary hypertensive patients. All the primary hypertensive patients, they are kept in one group. So that means we are achieving the homogeneity. All the renal hypertensive patients are kept in one group. That means we are achieving the homogeneity. So that is what. So here, this example I'm explaining here, just try to understand. They try to concentrate. This is very simple. You can understand and you can easily present in your exam. So we have patients with the hypertensive patients. What we have done, through homogeneity, we have separated them. We have kept them in the individual groups through homogeneity. So primary hypertensive patients, we are taking them as one. Diabetic hypertensive patients, we are taking it as 2, and renal patient, we are taking it as 3. So how many types of drugs we have? We have three types of drugs. We have type A, we have type B, and also we have type C. So what the researcher is doing here means, he is giving the three drugs to the patients. So he is doing three groups of primary hypertensive patient, he is doing the three groups of diabetic hypertensive patient, and he is doing the three groups of renal hypertensive patient. That's what we have: 1 2 3, 1 2 3, and 1 2 3. So based on the drugs, if you want to test the fourth drug, again we have the D1, D2 and D3. Means based on the number of drugs that you want to test, you can create number of groups. So based on the number of drugs that you want to test, we have three types of antihypertensive drugs. So you want to test the desired effect of each drug on the each patient. So we have how many blocks we have done based on the homogeneity. We have created three groups: patients with primary hypertension, patients with diabetic hypertension, and patients with renal hypertension. So the patients with primary hypertension, they have to receive the treatment of drug A. At the same time, they have to receive the treatment of drug B, and also they have to receive the treatment of drug C. You want to see the which drug is more effective in these patients. The same with the diabetic hypertensive patient, whether the type A drug is effective or type B drug is effective or type C drug is effective. And the same thing is with the renal hypertensive patient, whether type A drug is effective, type B drug is effective, or type C drug is effective. So what we will do, type A drug, we will create each group. So type A group will be there. The patients who are receiving type A type of drug will be kept in one group. The primary hypertensive patients will form one group, diabetic hypertensive one group, and hypertensive patient one group with group A type of drug. So in order to simplify it further, what I have done is I have taken three types of antihypertensive drugs. So first drug is Metaxel, if you think. Second drug is Telmisartan, and third drug is Enalapril. So I want to see the effect of this Metaxel on the primary hypertensive patient, on the diabetic hypertensive patient, as well as on the renal hypertensive patients. So what I will do, I will create each group of patients who are receiving this Metaxel tablet. So I'll consider them as group A. So here primary hypertensives A1 and diabetic hypertensives A2 and renal hypertensives A3. And the second drug which I want to test is telmisartan. So the telmisartan, it is denoted by B. So here the primary hypertensive patients are denoted with the number 1. So here B1 means the persons who are receiving the primary hypertensive, the primary hypertensive means the primary hypertensives who are receiving the telmisartan will be B1, and the diabetic hypertensive patients who are receiving the telmisartan will be B2, and the renal hypertensive patients who are receiving the telmisartan will be B3, and the same thing will be followed by Enalapril. So here the primary hypertensive patients who are receiving the Enalapril will be C1, the diabetic hypertensions who are receiving the Enalapril will be C2, and the renal hypertensive patients who are receiving the Enalapril will be C3. Now what I will do, I will study the desired effect. So the patients who received the Metax, all the patients here homogeneously they received all the three drugs. So what I am doing is I am checking the effect of the tablet. So I will check the effectiveness of treatment in primary hypertensive patients, the diabetic hypertensive patient, and renal hypertensive patients. So the persons who received Metaxel in the primary hypertensive patients are having desired effect. That means the telmisartan is not effective and enalapril is not effective. The persons who got received the Metaxel, they are effective. That means in primary hypertensive patients, if any patient is coming to us for the treatment, what we'll give them, we'll give them the Metaxel, because this is effective compared to the telmisartan and enalapril. And in diabetic hypertensive patient, here the Metaxel is not effective. The Metaxel is not effective. Either the telmisartan is also not effective. The effective drug for this diabetic hypertension is Enalapril. So next time whenever a patient is coming to you with the diabetic hypertensive patient, what drug you will prefer? You will prefer Enalapril. And in the same way, here the Metaxel is not effective and Enalapril is not effective. The telmisartan is effective for the renal patient. So next time when a patient comes with a renal hypertension, what we will give? We'll give the drug of telmisartan. So just for example, I have taken these drugs. So this is what the randomized factorial design will work. So we'll check different types of drugs with different types of patients. All these patients are hypertensive patients. The thing is, they are heterogeneously arranged. So in order to simplify it, what I have done it into subgroups. Means all the primary hypertensive patients are brought into one group, diabetic hypertensive patients are brought into one group, and renal hypertensive patients are brought into one group. And what I have done, I have created based on the treatment that is available, I have created each treatment individual group for each type of homogeneous block, and I have studied the desired effect. So this was the randomized block design. Hope you guys understood. This is very simple. If you understood, please Try to comment below. If you do not understand also, please try to comment below. I'll try to explain you, and I'll give you my number also. You can contact me through the WhatsApp. Now we'll see the last group in the true experimental research design. So in last group we have crossover design. So the name itself is saying that we are crossing the subjects here. So here in this design, what we are doing means, here mainly in this design the subject are exposed to more than one treatment variable. So what we are doing, we are randomly assigning them to the different orders of treatment. So this is also called as repeat measures design. So here this design, it is most efficient in establishing the highest possible similarity among the subjects, those who are exposed to different conditions. So for example, if you take the design here, so in previously we have done the factorial design. For example, in factorial design, what we have done, we have taken group 1 and group 2. So we have kept the group 1 in the chlorhexidine and group 2 in the saline mouthwash. So these saline mouthwash patients, they do not receive the chlorhexidine mouthwash in the factorial design. At the same time, the chlorhexidine mouthwash patients do not receive any kind of saline treatment. Just they want to identify what is the effect of the drug. Whereas in crossover design, what we'll do, we'll select the two groups: the groups who got the saline mouthwash and the groups who got the chlorhexidine mouthwash. So the patients who received the saline mouthwash, in the second group they will receive the chlorhexidine mouthwash, and the patients who received the chlorhexidine mouthwash in the first group, they will receive the saline mouthwash. Simply what we are doing, we are crossovering. So you can see here group 1 patients, so part A they are receiving chlorhexidine, and part B they are receiving the saline mouthwash. So in group 2, what we'll do, the patients who received the saline mouthwash, they will receive chlorhexidine, and the patient who received the chlorhexidine mouthwash, they will receive the saline mouthwash. So this is what the crossover design is saying to us. So here, this crossover design, it is most efficient in establishing the highest possible similarity. So these subjects here are, they are exposed to different types of conditions. They are exposed to the chlorhexidine as well as they are exposed to the saline mouthwash. So you can see the distributed effect both with the saline mouthwash as well as the chlorhexidine mouthwash for the both patients. So this crossover design, it is considered as extremely powerful research design. Sometimes it is not effective, but the subjects are exposed to two different conditions, and their responses for the second condition and first condition can be known. So here mostly when a person is receiving the influence from the first treatment, so the persons who received the chlorhexidine treatment first, if they are receiving the saline treatment on the second time, so here as we have already given the chlorhexidine mouthwash, the effect of the chlorhexidine mouthwash will be there on these patients. So there are more chances of not getting the disease even they receive the saline mouthwash. So here, as it is influencing, it is one of the drawback for this crossover research design. So these are the true experimental research design. So what we have discussed so far, we have discussed the crossover design, we have discussed the randomized, we have discussed the factorial design, as well as we have discussed the Solomon 4 group design, we have discussed the pre-test post-test only design, and we have discussed the post-test only control design. So these are the true experimental research designs. Hope you guys have understood. If you have any queries, you can contact me through my WhatsApp number. My WhatsApp number is this: 8374347790. So this is my WhatsApp number, and my name is Kamal. You can contact me, and you can ask me if you have any queries with these research designs. Thank you so much for watching. So these are true experimental research design. This true experimental research design belong to the experimental design, and this experimental research design is belonging to the quantitative research design. So this is what. So we have discussed this part in the class. So thank you so much for watching. In next class, I will explain you regarding the quasi experimental research design. If you like the content, please like, share and subscribe the channel, and please try to share with your friends so that they also can get the class. Thank you so much. Thanks for watching.